What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today I'm not only ranking but also grading the 5 NFL head coaching hires from across the league. Excited to bring this video your way. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and of course this is just the catalyst for a conversation. Let me hear your grades and rankings of the new 5 NFL head coaching hires. Obviously, we start with Jonathan Gannon, and I give it a C. Thought about a C plus here, but I did want to have a point of differentiation with who I have at 4. But I don't think it's a bad hire. I just think the Cardinals ultimately had higher names on their list. Like I feel like DeMeco Ryans was the dude that they were willing to do anything to get, and then just ultimately didn't get him, which is a little unfortunate. I also think, Brian Flores took a DC job over this head coaching job, so that makes me think that they didn't offer him the position, but maybe. I still think Sean Payton would have been kind of a great hire there, but that would have been more of a retool versus a rebuild. I think by going Jonathan Gannon, you're going full rebuild. Hopefully they gave him the time to be able to fully see this out, him, and as well as a new GM too. So you're talking about a whole new, kind of face of the franchise, so to speak. But of course, Kyler Murray's still there at the center of it. It's been good to hear Jonathan Gannon kind of put that emphasis on, Kyler Murray, everything revolves around him. We need to make sure that he looks as good as he can. I also think Gannon did a really good job as a DC in Philadelphia, and it's a Cardinals defense that I think needs a lot of help. So hopefully Gannon kind of steers the ship in the right direction and cleans that side of the ball up. And I think they're in a great position. If they stay at 3, you're getting either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. So that's going to be a great building block for them to have moving forward. So then we get to head coach number 4, and I feel like this one's going to be a little controversial, people. I got Sean Payton at 4. Him and Shane Steichen I kind of went back and forth on. But see, the thing is for Sean Payton, I have to take the trade package into consideration. For me, there's no way I can't. So it's a little upsetting, I'm sure. But when ultimately you give up 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and 3 players for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, those guys need to perform. And also the thing is, do I think Sean Payton is a hire? Let's say they didn't have to trade for him. Let's just say it's a straight up hire of Sean Payton. Would I be excited about that? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that'd be a solid move, no doubt about it. It'd probably be like B plus. Like if you were to tell me they hired Sean Payton to fix Russell Wilson, I would say, well, there's no real fixing Russell Wilson in my opinion. I think he could play better than he did last year, but I don't think you're getting prime. Why is this guy not getting MVP votes? That Russell Wilson. But can he get him to play better? Sure. Yeah, Sean Payton could do that. But you gave up a first-round pick for him and then a day 2 pick swap. I just think that's something you have to consider. It's a part of the process. So do I think Sean Payton will have Russell Wilson look better? Yes. Do I think he did a great job in New Orleans? Does he have a Super Bowl for a reason? Yes. And it's kind of interesting. As Breeze really started to take a step backwards and his play was declining, did the Saints continue to disappoint? Yeah, but also Michael Thomas set an NFL record for receptions in a season. I think a lot of that is Sean Payton's flexibility and being able to be Drew Brees ain't the guy. He can't throw these bombs to Ted Ginn like he used to, right? He's not hitting, these long throws. We got to work that underneath intermediate stuff, and Michael Thomas has the perfect skill set for it. We're going to carve out a role where he can be that guy. And ultimately, I think that was for the best of those Saints teams. And maybe that type of ingenuity and that type of flexibility does get the most out of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, too, coming back from injury. So I am excited about it, but I kind of feel like Sean Payton's a little bit of an overrated name when it came to the head coaching market. And when his task is to revitalize Russell Wilson, I think you have a tough hill to climb right there. Because I don't think you're getting back to prime Russ. Can he play better than he did last year? Can you get weeks 17 and 18 Russ? Sure. But is that enough to warrant 3 1s, 3 2s, 3 players for that version of Russ and Sean Payton? I got to say no. So a big reason that the grade is a little bogged down is because of the trade. Otherwise, it'd probably be B plus-ish of a grade as the head coaching hire. But I'm sorry, it's part of the process, so I got to consider it. So let me move on to head coach number 3. I got Shane Steichen. I feel like he was the right guy for the Colts. Honestly, if these 2 hires were flipped, like if Sean Payton went to the Colts and Shane Steichen went to the Broncos, I think both grades would be a little bit lower. One, because the Colts would then therefore have to be trading assets for Sean Payton. All the things I just docked the Broncos for, I'd be docking against the Colts. But also I think where they're going is best suited for that. Sean Payton, you wanted a veteran guy who's worked with smaller quarterbacks in the past. He's got that type of track record to be able to fix Russell Wilson. Shane Steichen, a guy who was the OC in LA when Justin Herbert was a rookie. We saw that turned out really good. There was no reason Herbert was as good as he was as a rookie. He was this guy who at Oregon showcased tools, specifically that first year as a starter. But as a quarterback, his play kind of deteriorated and kind of went in the wrong direction. Gets to LA, Credit to Anthony Lynn, credit to the talent on that roster, and credit to Shane Steichen. A lot of credit to go around, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint one specific guy. But I think everyone kind of came together and got the best out of Justin Herbert, and he's only gotten better, in my opinion, since then. And I think, kind of Shane Steichen is a reason why had a stable grounding to build off of. So now then that leads him into Philadelphia. He takes over as the OC about, a third of the way through, not this past season, but the season before that when the Eagles made the wild card. And he was a big reason why they did make that playoff push and kind of got back on track after a little bit of a shaky start. And he's a big reason why they were in the Super Bowl. And it was one of the best offenses in football. So, I think this is the guy to usher in a new era at the quarterback position. That's kind of my point here. Sean Payton would have been great if he ended up in Indianapolis, however that would have played out, and if he were the guy to mentor a rookie quarterback. But I think Shane Steichen has had to do it more often, more recently. He did it with Herbert. He did it with Jalen Hurts. Now I'm excited to see him do it with either Bryce Young, Will Levis, CJ Stroud. It's got to be one of those three guys to me, and I think he's the guy to try to bring that new era along. Also, I like the scheme itself. It's always tricky. I think being a coordinator and getting a head coach is a little overblown. A little bit of a hot take to drop in the middle of this video, but it's tough because you look at Mike McDaniel, and that was the exact right scheme to bring over to Miami and plug Tua in. So it's not overrated from that standpoint, but Nathaniel Hackett, was it the scheme that made him that, and if it was, then what made it all of a sudden so disastrous? A big part of it is just being a good decision maker, understanding the clock, when to use challenges, having a good, process for when you're going to go for it on fourth downs, when you're going to go for two, making sure your team's prepared. Look at Brian Dable. This is the complete inverse of what I'm talking about. Mike McDaniel was the exact right hire, and he was the exact right system to bring to Miami. But Brian Dable, more than any other head coach last year, I think squeezed more wins out of a roster than any other head coach across the league. There was no reason that the Giants were in the playoffs and then won a playoff game. No disrespect. The Giants were a great story this year, but that comes back to Brian Dable. And he wasn't the guy calling plays. It was Mike Kafka. So, where does the credit go there? So I am excited to see what Shane Steichen and that offense looks like with Indianapolis, but really it's that mentor-mentee relationship, getting that rookie quarterback on the right path moving forward. But I am interested to see what other steps he takes to make sure that when it comes to managing the clock, managing timeouts, when to challenge, when not to, when to go forward on fourth down, all those other parts that go into being a good head coach. Where is that help coming from? Or is he able to do both? Right? Because even think about Nick Sirianni. He wasn't calling plays, so he got to be a guy who was kind of being aggressive, if you want to call it that, or using the numbers to his advantage when it comes to fourth downs, 2-point conversions, all that sort of stuff. So if Steichen's to be the play caller, how do those other roles kind of shake out? So that is something I'm interested in. That's kind of where maybe I was maybe I could have Sean Payton here because I do think he'll handle that stuff a little bit better. But I did decide to go Steichen at 2 and gave it a B. And then we get to the big 2. I gave out 2 A variants here, A- for Reich, and then number 1 guy, you know who it is because he's the only guy we haven't talked about, DeMeco Ryans, he got an A, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't like the idea of retread coaches unless it's a guy who got fired for reasons out of his control. And I think Frank Reich was a part of the QB decision-making process, so I don't want to get him off without any sort of blame there because I think he was a reason why Carson Wentz ended up in Indianapolis. And I do think he was a guy that brought in Philip Rivers. Those guys worked together, Jacoby Brissett, another good name that he's worked with in the past. So I think he does have some blame to be given there, but also he was hired and brought to Indianapolis to get the best out of Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck suddenly retired. So everything after that was him just trying to figure it out the best he could. Everything after that was just fumbling and just trying to make the best of a situation that wasn't what he signed up for. So now he gets to go to Carolina. I think he'll have a say in whoever that quarterback's going to be. Another team that just like Indianapolis, I think they're looking at the rookie quarterback market, whether it's Stroud who falls to them, whether it's Anthony Richardson. Do they make the move and go try to get a Bryce Young, Will Levis, CJ Stroud, even with a trade up too? All that is to be figured out in their room, but I love this hire because to me, he wasn't the problem in Indianapolis. So yeah, he's a retread hire, and I don't normally like that, but to me, he wasn't the issue in Indy. And I think he's also a great offensive-minded head coach. This is the guy to maximize DJ Moore. This is the guy to take that offensive line and how many strides forward it took last year, and let's keep it heading in that right direction. And then whoever that quarterback is, Frank Reich, I think is among the best names I could have had. Work with an Anthony Richardson, work with a CJ Stroud, work with a Will Levis, work with a Bryce Young if they make that type of a leap. This is the guy. So I love this hiring so much. I've always been a big Frank Reich guy, though, so I do take that bias, and I understand it. But again, I think he's a great play caller. I think he's a great offensive mind, and we've seen him carry teams led by Philip Rivers in his 40s to the playoffs and to double-digit wins. So I think in a improved roster state. Like with some time, this roster has potential to become even better than what he had in Indianapolis. And he could have his quarterback versus just figuring it out with a bunch of veterans and Band-Aid options. So I'm really excited to see what Frank Reich does in Carolina. I'm a big fan of this hire. But as noted, number one, DeMeco Ryans. To me, this was the best head coach available, even more than Sean Payton, despite not having the resume, which is tough because, again, being a coordinator and becoming a head coach is overrated, in my opinion. It absolutely is. It comes down to being a good decision maker and a good leader. But that's why I was like, yeah, I haven't seen DeMeco Ryans be a head coach, but from what I hear about the guy and from what I see just from watching him, I see him react to his team making a play, and I'm like looking for a brick wall to run through. Like, he just has that type of energy, and he has that type of magnetic charisma to where it's like, put that dude in front of a room and just have 53 guys all in the same, kind of line of thinking, right there on board. I think this team could accomplish a lot of cool stuff. So like, this is just an awesome hire for Houston because former Texan. So it's cool to see that former player become a head coach of the same team. Also rookie of the year with the Texans. So there's even like accolades that go with that. But this meteoric rise as a head coach, I think, just speaks to his character on top of how good of a coach he is, right? Like, goes from quality control coach to the replacement to Robert Saleh, who might be the best defensive coordinator of those years he was the DC in San Francisco. And then DeMeco Ryans not only maintains that status quo, in some ways it got better. Like, in some ways that defense was even crazier. And like, dude, you just look at how San Francisco had a lot of good athletes, but specifically those linebackers, which are, again, good athletes. But that entire defense, but focusing on the linebackers, how they rallied to the football, that's buy-in. Like, willingness to tackle, it's just like basketball with defense. Like, you have got to be willing to play defense. You have got to be willing to play, at the NFL level, you've got to be willing to tackle. And to me, that buy-in comes from an awesome guy at the front of the room leading the way, and that's DeMeco Ryans. So when it came to being the character factor, I was like, DeMeco Ryans is number one. I don't think it's close. So I love this hire, and I love that Houston was the place that was able to nab him up, because like, they've been looking for this type of a win, right? Like, I think David Culley did more than I expected 2 years ago with that Houston roster. And I think Lovie Smith, a really good leader and a good character, but I just think when it comes to his defense, and we've already seen it, that's a retread hire. It's like, I've seen that go bad. Like, I already know this is the long-term answer. This was the guy that Houston was looking for. So I am so excited because now we get to see Nick Caserio and this rebuild really take off. Because, I mean, I've heard rumblings that they're considering Jalen Carter and Will Anderson at 2. Interesting if they are. I guess Jimmy Garoppolo then becomes the quarterback of their future, at least the immediate future. But hopefully this is quarterback at 2, and you got your head coach hire and the best one on the market, in my opinion. Let's see this rebuild. Let's kickstart this thing. So love this hire, and I'm really excited about where Houston is heading in the coming future. But let me hear your rankings of these 5 head coaching hires down below in the comment section. Who do you have at 1? Are you with me? Is it Ryans? Do you have Frank Reich there? Where do you think Sean Payton should be in the mix? And what would you grade that Sean Payton trade and hiring? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all 5 of these names, how you have it ranked, and what grades you'd give it. So let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Again, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new, if you want more football content in your life, because plenty more is on the way. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teach, and I'm signing off.